The radio shows is the one thing that people try to trace. Where did Ron Nelson come from before CKLN? And they have difficulty because there's no history of me. Like I said, it was a very privileged opportunity, and I guess somebody would have done it, but I'm glad that I had that opportunity.
All right, so you did say that there weren't a lot of artists initially with that Monster Jam, but at some point, there were artists, and that were, the community had kind of built around the show. You were playing the music of people that would come on the show, but then, or that would come down to the station. How did you come up with the idea of like making, Toronto artists battle, people from the birthplace of hip hop, like, which at the time, if you're thinking about it, the artists are just developing here, and then now you go up against the people that invented it. Like that's pretty bold.
When you're around them all the time, you start to love them, like they became my circle, my life. So the radio station was an umbrella. Everybody who was an artist had to come there at least once because we had an open door policy. You could come in and look around, hang out. You don't even have to do anything. You can just hang out like we don't even know you, but there's a guy sitting over there. He's been there for 3 hours, We'll leave him alone. I don't know. It was just, again, an evolutionary process. What was your question again?
Basically, I was like, how did you come up with the idea to, like, this flyer says New York. I know there's a lot of text on it,
okay.
Right? So I'm not expecting people to read it, but one thing that is kind of prominent, it says New York invades Toronto. Right. Yeah. So basically, the whole concept for anyone who's not aware was that at some point people from Toronto were battling MCs or beatboxers or female MCs.
One day I had an epiphany.
Yeah.
Okay. One day I had an epiphany. So this is where I was trying to go before I lost it for a second there. But because you're surrounded by these people all the time, some of you live this life right now. You want to help them. You want to promote their talent. You want them to bust. So the one thing that I realized was, being a DJ, I'm realizing that our lyricists and our MCs, we're kind of just as good as some of those guys. So the mischievous side of me said, you know what? The best way to put Canada's artists on a map would be to have them battle, obviously. I'd never really done a battle before. Canada had never seen a battle, but it was something we read about, heard about, but it was very rare that there'd be any kind of a battle. Breakdancing battles, yes, but not MC battles. The difficulty would be to actually make it happen. And this is the one time I cheated with Cara Lewis and Norby Walters, because when I booked the artists to battle, I didn't tell them that they were coming up here to battle until after they got here. Now, you couldn't have gotten away with that today, because if you say battle, the price goes up, right? You got to pay more. But it tells you something about the naivety and the innocence at the time. When Biz found out he had to battle, with spit dripping out his mouth, he's like, all right, okay, who, man, all right, like, bring it on. Like, he just looked friggin' like the realest B-boy I've ever seen coming out of New York. He didn't care. He didn't care about anything. Just wanted to be on the stage doing his thing, right? Big Daddy Kane was there with Roxanne Shante as well. I had 2 battles, right? So I may be confusing some of the two. But generally what I'm saying is the attitude of the artists back then was real. They looked at a battle as non-consequential. No problem. Let's go. Doesn't matter about the money. They didn't call Cara Lewis and go, yo, this guy wants us a battle. Can we get more money now? Nothing like that. They were just into it for the sport, for hip-hop, for the love. I think they understood to some degree that, I was trying to break Canadian artists. But they're also full of cocky confidence at the time. They thought that it was like Canada versus Russia. We underestimated Russia when we played them in hockey, and they almost kicked our asses, right? So in some way, I think they didn't know what to expect out of Canada. They didn't really know that we had it together, but
yeah.
It was our home rink, though. We had the advantage of playing from home, and they were the ones from abroad. So it ended up being probably the greatest event that I've ever done.
Okay, great. Well, one of the MCs, the local MCs that performed I think it's round 3 on Small Print was Rumble. So let's play a little bit of Rumble. Rumble and Strong, sorry. That was a song called "Whatever MC Sound Like" by Rumble and Strong. So the thing about and Rumble battled KRS-One, right? Which, so, what do you remember about that?
Not much.
But just knowing that so what happens is
let me tell you something.
Yeah, okay.
Honest to God, whether people want to hear this or not, I missed a lot of my concerts because I was a damn promoter, okay? Back in those days when you're a promoter, there are no security companies, okay? There's nobody with experience to work. We didn't sell alcohol, but I had to have my parents sell the pop and the patties and stuff. You know, you recruited security guys based on seeing them on the street. If they look big and strong and they're black, it's like, hey, you want to work security. But there's no security companies at the time. I was also the DJ at all my events that I promoted, so how could I be on the stage playing music and also running the door at the front? So as a result of all that, I had to employ some of my colleagues to play different parts, you know what I mean? And during the show sometimes, at the peak of showtime is when Regent Park and Flemo would be trying to rush through the fucking back doors. And they had military styles. That's why I put out B-Boy Destruction, okay? My own cousin worked security, and when he saw the guy that tried to rush him from the last week, I looked back and my cousin was gone. And here is me, and there's the bad man there saying, yeah, Ron Nelson, you see you. I mean, it was, you can still see I'm traumatized by all of that stuff, right?
But like I wasn't expecting all the acting, but I appreciate it.
I can't forget my life because
yeah.
when Regent Park, look, Concert Hall and Party Center is within walking distance from Regent Park. Now, if you guys go back to the old school and you've ever been to a Concert Hall jam, you'll see that they march in a group of 30 people. It's like a little army. And then their favorite technique is to grab rocks off the ground, throw them at the back door of the concert hall, and if the security guard is stupid enough to open it, all of them rush in. After they finish throwing more rocks and beer balls, I mean, they had sophisticated techniques, so...
Clearly, I do want to get back to something else, though.
Can I interject, because this is important? I have to play this clip because this is after Rumble and KRS. Sorry, before Rumble and KRS battled. This is what KRS did on CKLN Fantastic Voyage, 1986.
Down there. You're rocking with the power. 88.1 CKLN, the Voyage rocks with knowing Ron Nelson rocks all to yo.
Stop playing.
Let me hear you say, yeah. It's Star Wars in the house. Let me hear you say, oh yeah. And look, Spectacles at the Fleming Park. Regent, Jam Fence, and I'm from the jungle. Put your hands in the air, wave them up side to side. Sparrowing, smoke, click dog, boom, just the lead. Shot out of rock, you don't gotta rock.
And he just goes on shouting out, all in Toronto.
That's actually a jingle I wrote for them to perform. They didn't do that in a freestyle. They're reading off my paper that I wrote.
That's even better.
Just so you know.
Well,
we used to have to write the jingles for the
yeah,
artists,
well,
right?
I don't imagine that KRS would know all the Toronto neighborhoods like that, like off the top of his head.
Just so you know.
Yeah. But it's still kind of cool to hear.
Oh, very cool, very cool.
Well, can you tell? He had a specific connection to the city because I do think
KRS, you're talking?
Yeah, KRS, because I think it's important because he is, a lot of people would consider him one of the, the better, great, one of the best hip hop artists of all time.